Hey guys, it's Julian from Beneath the Bunk Studios and BeneathTheBunk.com. I hope you're doing wonderfully today. We are Beneath the Bunk, asking the question, is it worth it to purchase third-party delay plugins? Let's get into it. So the main thing that inspired this video was when I realized that for a while I didn't really understand the purpose of purchasing third-party delay plugins, because I kind of thought to myself, a delay is a delay. It's supposed to go da, 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 da. Like, it doesn't really matter what plugin you use to make that effect. It's a pretty basic effect. It's really not rocket science. Why would I want to spend extra money on a plugin that'll do that when pretty much every DAW, if not every DAW, comes with a delay plugin that is more than usable? Once I started really doing my research, though, I realized that there are some delay plugins that are definitely worth the money that do not come with your DAW, and I'm going to be comparing some of those with stock Ableton delays to see what the third-party ones offer that the stock Ableton delays do not. So let's jump into Ableton. Cool, so I have an Ableton session here, and all this is one piano note that I programmed from Keyscape, and it sounds like this. It's a pretty big masterpiece, so brace yourself. That's it. I wanted something really simple so that you could easily hear the effect of all the delays that I have in this signal chain down here, all of which are bypassed at the moment, and all of which I'm going to compare in a second. So first up, we have the stock normal Ableton delay. Then next we have another stock Ableton delay if you have Live 10 Suite, and that is Echo. And then we have another one called Valhalla delay from Valhalla DSP. And then we have H delay from Waves. These are just some of the most popular delay plugins, at least I feel as if they're the most popular. So I decided to take those two, as well as two of the stock Ableton delays. There are more stock Ableton delays, but they're a lot more experimental, and these are, normal delays that are aimed at accomplishing that, delay sound that everybody expects from a delay. So first up, let's look at the delay plugin, just regular delay, and let's take a look at all of its features. So right away, we have some sync, and we have time. So if we have sync on, it syncs to the tempo of the project, and then these numbers are in 16th notes. So for example, this is 1/16th note of a delay, this is 4/16th notes of a delay, or a quarter note. This is 16/16th notes of a delay, which is, I believe, a bar, if my math in my head is correct. It might not be. This is some offset. And then if you want to just have some time, so you could do a really fast slapback and adjust it to your liking, you can click the sync, and then it'll change to time. And then you could have this. You want to have a different delay on the left as compared to the right. You can unlink them by clicking that button and shift them around so that your right ear could be different delay from your left ear. That can be a cool effect sometimes. Get some ping-pongy stuff from that. We also have some feedback, so we could tell it how much we want the signal to feed back through the delay loop. And then we also have the infinity. And what that does is it freezes the output of the delay so that it's just a constant delay. Has its applications. Most of the time you're not going to end up using that, but it's a cool feature. Next up, we have this filter, which is perfect for making lo-fi delays. So if you have like this piano note and you set this delay to be really only on the mid-range, it's going to sound like the normal piano at first, and then when the delay hits, you're going to really hear the lo-fi on the filter kicking in. So let's hear what that sounds like without the delay and with it. So you could really hear how much more lo-fi the delayed signal was than the original signal. That's what that's doing. We also have some modulation, which is some frequency modulation, and it just modulates the pitch pretty much. It's very nice when used subtly, can have some really cool experimental vibes when used dramatically, really get some wow, 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 wow kind of stuff going on that really doesn't sound very musical, but sounds kind of funny. Different modes for how you want it to sound when you're changing the delay value. We're not really going to get into that. And then we have ping pong. So if you want to have ping pong mode on, you'll get your left, and then you'll get your right, and then you'll get your left. It'll go back and forth between your ears. And then you have dry wet, obviously. 100% is only the wet signal, and then 0% is only the dry signal without any delay. So those are the features of the basic stock Ableton delay plugin. Now let's move on to Echo, which is exclusive to Live 10 Suite. And right away, you could tell that it looks a little bit more sophisticated than the normal delay plugin. You have your delay times like you had in the other one. You can sync them or unsync them. You could do dotted, triplet, blah, 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 just like you could do with the other one. Offset input. The big thing that I really like about this one that is not in the regular delay is that there's a distortion. That's what this D is. So it kind of distorts it or saturates it or clips it, one of those things. Either way, it produces a really nice effect, and it has a nice saturation on it that I find very pleasing for a lot of situations. So let's check out what that's like really quick. I'll turn up the input a little bit so it drives that distortion a little bit harder. And I'll put this on a quarter note so that you could hear what that distortion is doing. So I'll drive it more so you could really hear it better. So it's kind of just adding a lot of saturation, obviously. And when that's used subtly in the context of a mix, it works really nicely. You have your feedback invert, you have your feedback, you have filter stuff, just like you do over here. This is the equivalent of this, pretty much the same thing, except here you get a resonance control. That's a little bit different. We also have mid-side mode, which is different from ping pong, and we also have stereo mode. But mid-side is going to take the mids and the sides and delay things differently. So you're going to have one specific delay time for the mids, which is right here, and you're going to have one specific delay time for the sides. We're just going to go back to stereo and make it nice and normal. We got decay, which is the decay time for the reverb that is up here, which is very nice, simple, good sounding reverb. One knob, add some reverb into your signal. You can choose where you want the reverb in the signal flow on the delay. You have dry wet, stereo, how wide you want the delay to be, blah, 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 blah. Now let's move on to modulation. So we have some LFO shapes that we can choose from here that we can use to modulate different things. So we can modulate the delay times that are over here, and what that'll do is it'll create some variation in pitch, which can be as noticeable or not noticeable as you'd like for it to be. We also can apply some modulation from this LFO to the filter that you saw earlier that's right here. We can also do some envelope stuff. Honestly, the envelope thing kind of confuses me, and I don't hear a big difference when I use it, so I'm just going to skip over that. Sync, you can sync the LFO speed to the tempo of your session. That's what that does. You can change around the phase of one of these sides of the LFO, and we also have some character stuff, and this is another area that really separates itself from, that makes Echo separate from the delay plugin that we were talking about before, in that you don't have any of this stuff there. So we have gate. This sets a gate for how loud a signal has to be in order to get processed by the delay plugin. Ducking is going to make the delayed signal drop down in volume when the dry signal is playing. So that's perfect for vocals, like if you don't want the delay sound stepping all over your dry vocal sound. Noise is going to introduce some cool noise into this situation. Cool sometimes, not very cool other times. Wobble is going to introduce some pitch modulation. And those are the basic stock delay plugins in Ableton. Not super feature packed when compared to the plugins that I'm about to show you from Valhalla and Waves, but more than enough to get the job done. If you have these and you just need some vocal delay, or you need a guitar delay, or whatever the hell you need when it comes to delay, there's no reason that you should have any issues getting what you want, unless you want some crazy, sound design type delay. You shouldn't have any problems getting something that will work out of these plugins. They're perfectly usable, and if I didn't have any third-party delays, I'd be just fine just using these. But there are third-party delays that cost money, and why is that? What is the point of those? So let's jump into those. So we're going to first look at Valhalla Delay right here, and this is one of the first delay plugins that I ever actually purchased, and I'm really glad that I did it because it's got some really interesting vibes to it that these stock plugins in Ableton and in the other DAWs that I use as well do not have. So let's start out here. Right off the bat, we have mode, which is just going to present you with a whole bunch of different options. Just this mode section alone is a whole video on its own, so I'm not going to go through every single one of these things, but just know that each one is going to be doing a crazy different effect. So if you go on ghost mode, for example, and you turn the shift knob up, it does some crazy stuff right here. It's slowly ascending in pitch. If you turn it up even louder, it'll be even more dramatic. So that's some cool sound design stuff. Again, obviously, you're not going to have a use for that every day, but it's a cool effect if you just need something. We have reverse, which is going to reverse the sound as well as offer you the option to shift the pitch of the reversed sound. So that's what this sounds like. Another cool effect for sure. And then we have ducking, like I talked about before. Ducking is just going to duck the delay out of the way of the original signal. So when the singer is actually singing, for example, the delay is not stepping on its toes and getting in its way and interfering. Then you have era, which is going to offer you just more subtle changes, but it's pretty much just altering slightly the frequency spectrum. So if you have past, that's going to sound more old school, more lo-fi, and if you have future, that's going to sound more hi-fi and more modern. A bunch of presets here. The stock delays also have presets. I forgot to mention that. And then we have style. So we have a mono delay, we have a stereo delay, we have a ratio, which is just kind of cool for just coming up with unique rhythms that you wouldn't have come up with otherwise and generating interesting things. I don't totally understand how it works, but if you turn it on and then play something, for example, it's pretty cool. It can generate some rhythmic things that you never would have thought of in a million years, at least in my case. You also have a ping pong delay. You also have quad, which is a bunch of different micro delays in this one delay. I think again, this kind of confuses me, and there are multiple taps, as it calls them, and you can make it so that each one is really spaced apart or not very spaced apart. So let's check out what that sounds like with the spacing really low. So that's making, the way I understand it is that's making all of these taps pretty close together and play very close at the same time. That's why it sounds all phasey and flangy and weird. So if we turn up spacing, you're going to hear more distinct delay sounds. You're going to hear the attack of the note repeatedly rather than just one solid, really phasey repetition. So super spacey, super weird. Depending on the mode, you're going to have different options on this part of the screen over here. So for example, like I showed you before, when you have Ghost, you get this frequency shift section that is not there on hi-fi, for example. So you can get some pitch modulation, which is kind of cool when it's used subtly. Then you also have diffusion. The more this is up, the more it sounds like a reverb, which can make this plugin even cooler because it's almost more like a reverb and a delay plugin than just a delay plugin sometimes. You also have some drive, some saturation, sort of similar to the saturation that's available in the stock echo plugin that I was talking about before. And you have a low pass filter, high pass filter, and your standard width, feedback, blah 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 blah, all that kind of stuff. So this is a super full feature delay plugin. If you have this, you really don't need another delay plugin ever. And if you do decide to get another delay plugin, the main reason for that is going to be just a different flavor of something. That's the only reason you would ever even want to get something like this. If you have a DAW like Ableton or Cubase or pretty much any DAW that has cool stock delays, which is all of them at this point, it's just a different flavor of the same thing. It's just variety. You want it so that you have different sounds that are available to you that you didn't even really know you wanted. Maybe something that is stock is cool, but this thing that this third-party thing just happens to fit in a little bit better compared to the stock one. So now let's move on to the H delay, which is from Waves. Like I said before, it really isn't that fully featured. There aren't that many crazy things that you could do with this, but it's still a cool delay plugin nonetheless. So you have milliseconds. You can have your delay time adjusted in milliseconds. You can have it synced to your host BPM. You can set your own BPM from within the plugin. So if your session's in 120, but you want 175 BPM on your delay for some reason, you could do that. You could flip the phase of the right, flip the phase of the left. You can do a ping pong delay by turning that on. You can have a lo-fi delay. I was playing around with this before and I didn't hear that much of a difference with it on or off. Let's check that out really quick. So without that, it sounds like this. And with it, sounds pretty similar, which is kind of confusing to me. You also have these filters. So if you want another, super lo-fi tapes type delay, you can get a sound like this. And that can be cool in some situations. That's similar to the effect that I showed you with the stock delay from Ableton. That we also have some modulation, which is just pitch modulation. We have different analog modes. I've never used those. Usually with Wave stuff, the analog stuff just introduces noise. That's pretty pointless, so I just keep it off. And then that's pretty much it. This one's pretty basic. It gets the job done though. And it's just another flavor, like I said, that you can add to your arsenal if you feel like you're getting bored of the same couple distortion plugins, delay plugins in your DAW. A big point that I want to make to any beginners that are watching this video is that if you don't really understand delay, don't buy a delay plugin yet. Just learn the plugins that you have, learn the stock delays that are included with your DAW, and you will be perfectly fine. You should really understand how all that works before you start delving into the world of third-party delay plugins, because delay at the end of the day is a fairly simple effect. I never thought I'd be talking about it this much in one video, but here we are. And you really need to understand how that works anyway. So just make that happen. And then if you start to get bored, expand your stuff a little bit and start to step your game up and check out the Valhalla delay, for example. That's all I got for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did or if you didn't, let me know down below. If you have any questions, don't be shy. Feel free to let me know down below. I'm always down to talk to you guys. If you comment, there was a 100% chance that I will answer. Tell me what your favorite delay plugins are. Tell me what delay plugins you hate and why. I'd love to hear it all. Start up some conversations in the comments, and I'll talk to you later.